Welcome,
Welcome.
welcome
Welcome.
to the Unhinged Bookcast, a podcast hosted by Jess and LJ, who love all things fantasy books. I'm LJ.
And I'm Jess, and we are happy to have you back again.
Whether we're deep diving into thoughts and theories or just riding the vibes, we love discussing our current reads with each other and now with all of you.
We are currently reading book 3 in the Kindred Curse series by Penn Cole, and tonight we're discussing chapters 20 through 39 of Heat of the Everflame.
So if you don't know why it's a mad dash to get back to Luminos, then pause, finish reading, and make sure to come back.
Yes. This is episode 7 in our Kindred Curse series.
We will be finishing out this series in a few short weeks and then jumping into another series. We hope last week's hint let you eliminate one of the 4 book series, and tonight we've got another one for you.
And we are taking the book club style approach to our podcast. So if you're reading along with us, this will be spoiler free for you if you've read through our current reading section.
However, if you have already finished this series, please be considerate of us and our fellow readers and refrain from leaving spoilers in the comments.
And as always, these are adult fantasy books, so this is your content warning for the naughty words we use, as well as possible discussion of spicy and violent scenes from the book that may not be suitable for those little ears around you.
We do enjoy these types of conversations, but we will do our best to remind you to cover those sensitive ears beforehand.
Also, a quick reminder that you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram for the days in between episodes.
And please like our YouTube videos if you're enjoying them, and subscribe to the channel to get notifications of new episodes on Tuesdays, as well as random bonus episodes.
As always, we like to break our discussions down into different categories: characters, world building, history and lore, clues and foreshadowing, honorable mentions, and lastly, our thoughts and theories.
Also, we'll be adding to our counters for cries, growling, and jaw ticking at the end of the episode, as well as our second clue for you guys to guess what our next book series will be. Now, let's get this discussion started so we can get to find out Luther's fate, man. Even though I'm pretty sure we know how this is going to turn out.
Okay, so we'll start off with our characters like always, and we'll start with Miss Diem. What did we learn about Diem this time? Again, she's always kind of a tricky one because there's always a
She
lot
is a
about
tricky
her.
one because she's the main character.
Yeah. We learned that she can definitely take the magic of each realm. I mean, I guess it's not confirmed, but she can take on the magic of each realm that she's in.
Uh-huh.
And I think she's actually starting to realize it as well.
I think so too.
She's piecing things together and also starts to learn some history about the Descendant and the Kindred, thanks to the Queen of Umbros. Helps her learn some stuff.
And mortal history too. That's all been
And the
in
mortal history.
band.
Good point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I have to say, I just love how she loves books. Like,
Yes.
there's so many characters in all of these books that love books, and she's another one.
So do we.
And so do we. Exactly.
Same girl, same.
Exactly. She tries to trust Luther and share her secrets with him and all that, but she does a pretty shitty job at it.
You think so?
I think so. I think she could do
I
so
think
much
she's
better.
definitely trying. I think she's definitely trying.
She's irritating me right
Trying
now,
more
honestly.
than Luther in this section, but they're all irritating me. But
I agree. Yeah. Yep. And then last thing I'll say about her is she is also starting to, I think, accept and realize just how powerful she may actually be.
ooh, true. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I've got Luther tonight. So first off, I knew he got hit with the Godstone.
Same.
I'm pretty sure I know when it happened, and it would have technically been last time when he was bathing by himself in the oasis or whatever.
That's when you called it.
And that's when I think I called it. Yeah. And then I think we were just talking about this before we hit record, but chapter 34 or whatever, we were both like, chapter 34. That's when we were like solidified.
Yes. I will say it really frustrated me though that she didn't see it. She's like a healer.
Yes.
Seriously.
I think
she was
that's what
touching him and everything.
That's what she was beating herself up about. Well,
right.
No, he kept hiding it. Remember? And then like the gloves at the party that she was like,
yeah,
that's
that was
weird.
And the high collared outfit and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very strange.
But like they all got dressed by other people for the party or something though. So maybe she was just like, oh, that's even more weird that
Yeah,
they would dress
okay.
him like that. But
Right.
um
Sorry.
yeah. No, you're
Bunny
good.
trail.
No, you're fine. Um but yeah, just a lot of things that he kept saying throughout that. Yeah, it was just like it was pretty obvious.
It was.
And like DM recalls it like in the last chapter or two, like all the things he had said and like all the signs and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but damn, is he a loyal man to the very end because
Yeah.
he said something about how he didn't want to tell DM because he wanted to see her happy in his last days and not sad. I get it and I don't.
I know, me too. That kind of stuff irritates me in these books. I'm like, just tell him.
Right? Because then we can find a solution faster. But he said he'd been doing everything that they had done for Taryn and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Well, then you could have figured out faster that Taryn had special stuff and
I
you didn't
know.
get the special stuff yet.
I know. Exactly. I would be
And
so
we
frustrated
could
with
get
him.
more into that here in a
Oh,
little
yeah, we will.
bit,
I
but
think we do.
yeah.
Okay, so Taryn, since we're talking about him, we'll go into Taryn.
Yep.
He's pretty much all the way healed, unlike
Yeah.
Luther.
Yep. Unlike Luther.
Um, we also learn a little bit more about his childhood and why he hates Aemon so much. I mean, in the
Yeah.
second book, there is hints that maybe his father was abusive to them both,
Yeah.
and he's the younger of the two, and he talks about how his father was indeed abusive to them, and Aemon, being the older of them, when he grew and got his healing magic, Gareth kind of left him alone a little bit more, and Taryn always wanted Aemon to step in and save him,
Yep.
and he never would. He was like, "Well, this dad wants us to be tough. We gotta deal with it."
Hmm.
And that's why he's so close with Luther, because Luther did step in
Yeah.
and help him. So, anyways, we learned a little bit of family history background to Taryn. We also learned that he's got a thing for Zal, who we'll talk about
Hmm.
again here in a little bit. Um, he is still the comedic relief for the story,
Yes.
and he also might have a drinking problem.
I mean, maybe. Maybe.
Dee does ask him if he
T
does.
does ask him.
He does not deny it.
All right, Alex. She gets more and more fun with every section.
I agree. I agree.
And can we just say that she sounds like she's one hell of a good time at this party when she is 100,000% off duty?
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's funny that like she asked DM like multiple times, like, are you sure I'm off duty? Are you
Yeah.
sure this is okay? Are you sure I can go do my own thing?
Mm-hmm.
And then she is also working on some kind of tool for the imminent war.
She's just cool.
She's so cool. I love her. She's a good time.
Yeah.
I
Same.
I mean, I don't know that for sure, but she sounds like she's a good time.
She totally sounds like a good time. Okay. Zalaric Hanaver, or Zal for short. He is Luther's contact, also known as the Jaguar. Luther saved him, so he's a Havesy. Luther
Yep.
saved him as a child, and he's a Hanaver on his father's side. Um,
Yes.
so Luther saved him as a child and brought him to Umbros to live with Miss Margie,
Hmm.
and she was just this single lady who took in the Havesies. She raised him, and then he took over this inn, and he took over the care of the Havesies when Miss Margie died.
Yeah.
He's very powerful. Dee comments on how she can feel his aura because, like, the most powerful descendant can feel each other's magic, and how the only other person who's ever come close to his power that she's felt is Luther. So he's very powerful. He also is self-taught when it comes to magic, never had any fancy tutors or anything, and did a really good job with it. And he's able to use the illumination magic that Alix has to change their appearances. So not just make them invisible, but completely change their appearances. We have the Queen of Umbros, or her real name is Ursula.
Yes. And I will interrupt you a couple times during this
Go. Yep, that's fine.
just so you know, because we have different thoughts.
Do we? Okay,
Yes, we
interesting.
do.
Okay, so my thoughts. I'm not really sure what to think about her. She knows a lot. She's a walking history lesson, I feel
Oh
like.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Um, and she definitely holds a lot of the answers that DM needs about herself and her father and like all the prophecies and cryptic crap
Okay,
we
this is the
keep
first
getting.
spot I'm gonna stop you because
Okay,
she
go ahead.
says something when they're talking about fate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she says, "Well, I can't tell you because some fate set in stone or something like that." But then
Mm-hmm.
she says how but knowing will it change it or anything like that. And
Mm-hmm.
GM was saying like, "Well, maybe it can, but the thing is it can't." So I think that's why she's not telling her so that she doesn't screw up something else since she knows the prophecy
Yeah. I think
and
you're right. And I
Umbros
actually
talks
think
to
she
her or
pretty much
whatever.
says that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
basically. So I don't think that she's necessarily keeping the answers from DM, but she's trying to get DM to read between the damn lines, and
I
DM is
agree.
stupid.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I do
that's
agree with
just
that.
my thoughts, but
No, I have the same thoughts. I couldn't quite figure out how to like put that together. But I don't think she's against DM at all. But yeah, she's definitely trying to get her to like read between the lines a little bit
yeah.
instead of just like spoon feeding her all of these answers and whatnot.
And we'll kind of get into it a little bit more later, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it has to do with her heir is in the room. And then she was saying about her how she knows who her heir is going to be or
Yeah.
whatever. And she's like saying that this person's going to be a problem for you. So
Yep.
I think she's trying to give DM the upper hand
She
also.
is. I think she's
So I
warning
think she
her
is
in the
warning her.
best way she can without
Uh-huh.
screwing stuff up.
Yeah,
And I can't remember if we had put that later on or not, but that definitely
I think so.
deserves a mention. So, let's see. She is a bit of a mystery though. I mean, you just think about how long
Oh
she's
yeah.
lived for a very she's old. She doesn't
Yeah,
look old, but
she
she's
lives
old.
through the blood war.
Right. Yeah, she lived through the Blood War. And I don't know. It's not that I don't trust her, but I don't trust her. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna say this is Drusilla.
Sure.
Okay.
Sounds good.
It was spelled Drusila, but she
Drusilla
is
or something
the
like that, yeah.
mated senate cent oh here
Centenary.
we go.
Centenary.
This is gonna be another
Gotta
one.
get all those syllables.
Conscience.
Oh
Okay.
no, let's not start that.
So she is the mated that one, and
Yep.
she is mated to a sailor in Maros,
Hmm.
and they are having a baby. And she shares about her mating mark in a bit of a show and tell with Diem and Taryn, I believe. And
Hmm.
it glows when she touches it, and it says that she can feel when he touches his too. So
Hmm.
I have some thoughts on this here
Oh, interesting. Okay.
later. We can do in thoughts and theories because I don't know where else it comes up because it's just a thought and theory. So,
Okay, cool. I'm excited to hear because I didn't have any extra like little thoughts on that.
oh, I 100% did. I was like, there's no
Okay.
way this was just put in the book for no reason. Absolutely not. So go ahead.
Okay, cool. Cool. Okay. And then we'll talk about Miss Margie.
Yes.
So Miss Margie was the mortal that lived in Umbros and worked with Orly and Luther to save the Havesies and to find homes for them. She ran the inn originally, and she was basically a mother to Zal. And then we also learned that the only way that she was really able to provide for herself and the kids was to work in the skin market, to have money to take in the orphans. And then she got sick too, and she didn't even have enough money at that time to heal, like hire a healer or anything like that. And then that's when she passed away, and then Zal took over everything that she was doing.
Yeah. Simon
Oh
says
man.
some gross things. um, he is back. He
Yep.
is back. But were we surprised? Okay.
No.
So from what I understand, he's the Queen of Umbros's second in command, basically.
Basically, he's like in command of the Centenaries.
Yeah. Um, however, I have started to wonder if he will be helpful at some point.
Mm-hmm. I agree. She did kind of tend like start to befriend him in a
Right.
weird way.
In a weird way.
Yeah.
But he may be horrible if he is the heir to the
I
Umbros.
know, I thought that too.
All right. On to world
Okay.
building. Let's do
World
this.
building. So, starting in chapter 22, we enter the world of Umbros. This is the realm of mind and secret. And then Umbros City is the capital, and it is the famed City of Shadows. The whole city is built underground and carved inside the Black Canyons. You enter through tunnels, and the Lumnos Descended were hired to use their light magic to make orbs of light to light up the interiors. I had a heck of a time imagining this place. I could not get this one in my head.
Oh, really?
No, I was
So this
really having a hard
totally
time here.
made me think of the meat market from Crescent City,
I did get that, and then I also
like
got
the
like Under the
fighting pits.
Mountain
Oh,
from
yeah, I could see that too from Akatar.
Akatar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just couldn't piece it together. The edges were super foggy in my brain with this one.
Oh, see, like this was like the most descriptive thing I had in my head. So
I figured. I was like, I'm gonna just let Leslie explain this to me.
yes,
Do you know how hard it's been for me not to look up fan art of Umbro City
I doubt
and
there's hardly
accidentally
anything.
get, probably not, but you can find anything you want on the internet these days.
that that could go a whole
Oh
another
man.
route there.
Okay, there is all walks of life here. And we know of like there's like the skin market, there's the vendors, there's the fighting pits. It definitely gives off meat market vibes from
Yeah,
Crescent City.
Crescent City. Yeah.
But there's no segregation, which was a really big point.
Yep.
The descended and mortals of all types are intermingled, and there's no poor village where the mortals are shoved to be subjugated and unseen.
Yep.
And then, last little thought on Umbro City is that the descended who pay tithes are allowed by the queen to use their magic. It's the only realm
Yep.
that does that.
Where there's free magic or whatever. Well, it's not free,
Well, it's
but
not free, but she will release the forging magic or whatever on them so they can
yep.
use it. And then in chapter 23, we learn about the Second Chance Inn, which is the inn that Zal runs for the Havesies. All we really hear about is that there's long hallways and all the workers are Lumnos descended. And in the room that Luther and DM are given isn't marked like the other rooms where it was dark and then some kids come in, put some lit flowers in it to give off light, and then it looks normal after it's lit up. That's kind of all we learn about that.
Yeah. So chapter 32, we get to see the Umbros Palace. It's where the queen and all her descendants stay, unless it is their turn to be doing patrols or working the docks or collecting the debts or whatever. It is above the city and the markets. It's high enough above that there are windows and balconies to see out of the canyon rocks. And there's freaking dragons everywhere. And we'll get some more into this, but this also just kind of sounds like a whorehouse to me, but
Oh my gosh, I know.
people just openly, let's just say, enjoying themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then, so getting into the throne room, which we're also still going up from the palace. So, up in the throne room is just, it's piqued my interest. So, this circular throne room with
Mm-hmm.
10 arches around it that all open up to the sky above. So, they're obviously at the top of these canyons. And then the throne itself, quote, this is from DM, it is carved from dark jade that resembled a swarm of battling dragons. What else is circular and has arches and pillars
Mm-hmm.
around it, but only has 9?
I did not
This
even think
has
about this
10.
twice. Oh, I did not think about that.
I have more about this in a little bit, but
Oh man.
all right.
Okay,
What's next?
history. We've got history and lore. Um, so we start with chapter 22. We are talking about the centenaries. So the centenaries are the 100 descended of Umbros. Um, that like after the Blood War, descended breeding limits were put in place in lots of the realms to prevent the magic from becoming diluted or weak, but the Umbros queen takes it a step further and she cut hers down to the most powerful 100 to keep her bloodline from being undiluted, and then the rest died or were killed. Um and then I will just put this little note. I took Latin in high school and loved it, so I had to look this up. I was like, this has to be, there's so much Latin in this book. Centenaries, obviously it makes sense. It's from the Latin word centenarius, which means containing 100. So, makes sense.
I'm glad you can say these words because I can't.
It's probably because I took Latin in high school. I don't know.
Probably, yeah. She's like, I know how to pronounce this. Except for consciousness. We can't help Leslie with
Consciousness.
that. Yeah, whatever.
Oh
All right,
man.
all right, all right.
Okay. So, the Centenaries, their thought magic can read your mind like a book and bend you to their will, and makes them the perfect enforcers for the realm, and they make sure to collect all the dues for the queen. Because the queen, quote, the queen always gets her cut in Umbros.
Yes, yes. All right, chapter 22, the story of the Jaguar and the Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Luther and Zal sent messenger hawks back and forth, and they worked together without, I guess, knowing each other to get the
Yeah.
Havesies out of Lumnos. And I'm assuming that's why the inn is full of Lumnos descended,
Mm-hmm.
but didn't know who each other was until they saw each other again and talked about it. I think after Luther sees Zal's scar, I think
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of realizes who the
who he is, and
Jaguar
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. And has been all these years. Okay, then we're going to jump all the way to chapter 29. We're going to talk a little more about this later in clues and foreshadowing, but I'm just going to put this little tidbit of history out there about the Gryvern of Montios.
Mhm.
Um, Again, we'll learn why we're talking about her later. They're in the market, there's Dragonfire. Anyways, this merchant that she's trying to buy Dragonfire from says
Mhm.
that there's one jar left of the Dragonfire from the Gryvern from Montios. That Gryvern's name was, quote, from the merchant. He says, her name was Ramari. She was the oldest of the Gryverns, even though Montios was youngest of the kindred. She was the most beautiful, too, pure white from tongue to tail with scales like opals. They say it never stops snowing in the place where she died.
But Montios
Mm-hmm.
was not the youngest kindred sibling.
Yeah,
We find out in his her diary
yeah,
later, and we'll get to that.
yeah. I was having the same thoughts when I was putting
Uh-huh.
notes, and I was like, that wasn't right. But yeah, talk about that later. Leslie will talk about that later.
Mhm. I will. So moving on, chapter 35, we're kind of jumping here, but lots of stories of the Everflame. This is when she's going through the library. I'm so sorry.
Hmm.
And there's lots of stories about the Everflame, and I picked like two of them, okay, that stood out to me. So quote, apparently the old I put dogs, that should say gods. Apparently the old gods once plucked flames from its branches and gave them as blessings, flames that burned forever and kept their bearers warm even in the coldest of nights.
Hmm.
Interesting to me, considering Luther considers himself blessed by Lumnos.
Hmm.
And then I also had, quote, pregnant mothers would risk their lives to travel the sea once labor began, believing a child born on the Everflame's blessed soil would be imbued with its sacred power of life, and the glacial pits of hell beneath its roots were not eternal, as I'd once been told. Unworthy souls condemned to its ice cold petition for a second chance to earn their way into the warm haven of the undying fire.
Okay, I'm sure you already have
Pregnant.
thoughts and theories on theirs.
Oh,
I
yes.
did not even think about that till you were reading it and forced me to slow down and actually pay attention to it because, yeah, I
Yeah.
have thoughts on that now, which you probably already have the same
Believing
thoughts
a
I have
child
in my head.
born on the Everflame's
Yeah.
blessed soil would be imbued with its sacred power of life. And then the
I
glacial
won't say
pits
any
of
more
hell
because go ahead. Go
bit
ahead. Sorry.
the and the glacial pits of hell beneath its roots.
Yep. Yep. I won't say any more because I don't want to steal your thunder because I have a feeling you have a lot of thoughts on this later, and I think I'm on the same page with you
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
now that
Uh-huh.
I'm
Uh-huh.
slowing down and thinking about this a little bit.
We keep going on to your chapter 35 notes
Okay.
though.
Okay. All right. Chapter 35. Um, Lots of history about the world before the kindred. Again, she's in the Queen of Umbrosa's library,
Yeah.
and she's reading all these books. And so the mortals tried lots of different types of government before the kindred came. And she notes that each one was getting better and better than the last until the kindred came in and did away with mortal government altogether. Just kind of took over.
Yeah.
And they also meticulously did away with the names of the old gods. No
Oh.
trace of the names could be found in any of the books that she was reading. And so she says, quote, they must have feared there was some power in the names. The only name that remained was the Everflame, and even that had been outlawed after the Blood War. And then she
Okay, I have a
finds, go
question
ahead.
for
Yeah,
you
yeah.
real quick on
Okay,
that.
cool.
Do you have any thoughts about that? The names
No,
of the old gods? Oh, okay. And what? Okay.
I wish I did. I feel like it's like on the tip of my tongue kind of thing, but I cannot
It's
get
a
my
memory that you
thoughts
can't
out.
remember, like
Yes,
we have later.
there's obviously something there.
Okay, I have thoughts, but we can get to that later.
Okay, yeah,
Like I said, I
pretty
think I
much,
have this all thought out,
yeah,
but
pretty much thoughts and theories is going to belong to Leslie this episode.
not too much, but I'll give in a lot. Yeah.
Okay. And then Diem finds the original map that the Kindred used of Amarian. And she says that you can see where the borders had been kind of like drawn and then erased and redrawn to portion out the realms. But she notes that Montios seems to be the only realm whose borders were not ever messed with.
Okay.
There's a lot
So
about Montios that
yes.
keeps coming up.
So I was like, huh, interesting. So I went back to the map at the beginning of the book, and
Mm-hmm.
Montios is like double the size of any of the other realms.
I didn't even think about doing that.
So think about that.
Look at
There's
it. I'm like,
9 realms, but Montios is huge.
and there's 10 pillars in the Queen of Umbrose's queen whatever throne room.
Uh-huh. I'm gonna let you keep thinking on all that, and
Okie
we can move on.
dokie. Okay, we're gonna move on. Let's see, where are we at here? 36.
36.
Chapter 36. According to the Queen of Umbros, she tells Diem that no amount of mortal blood in a bloodline can distinguish the kindred blood. However, the kindred blood can overrule slash distinguish other kindred blood. So any other descendant that has an Umbros descended, or that an Umbros descended bears children with, the child will always have the Umbros traits, not those of the other parent from the different realm. So she talks about what was her one
It was
centenary's name?
Drusilla.
Drusilla, who is mated with a man from Maros, and
Mhm.
she uses her as an example because she's pregnant, and tells them that, or tells Diem that Drusilla's child, even though she is mated with another descended from another realm, will show the traits of an Umbros descended, not Maros.
Yep.
So that is interesting. That Umbros always wins out in the gene pool,
Mhm.
and that the mortal blood does not distinguish the kindred blood, but kindred blood can distinguish kindred blood.
Yep.
So I have thoughts on that later. Yep. So all the way back to chapter 20. They are in Igneos. Um, they think they're getting away, and then all of a sudden, the king and his minions show up. So it says, quote, from Diem. The Gryvern slammed onto the beach with a spray of sand and sea foam. It whipped its dark-scaled head toward the sky, sending the golden chains at its neck jangling before it released an ear-splitting howl. Its yellow eyes cut to me, the glow of dragonfire built in its throat, smoke unfurling between its fangs as a rumble rolled from its chest. It was a terrifying display, and a warning that it would defend its king, that it had to defend its king, whether it wanted to or not, and that was ... curious. End quote.
Very curious. Very
Very
curious
curious.
indeed. So also chapter 20, the king of Igneos, he's landed, he's talking to her, whatever. He asks, what kind of shield is that? Because mind you, she's got flame all around her.
hmm
And she thinks, um, quote, honestly, his guess is as good as mine. I didn't even feel like I was using my magic at all. I had no idea how this was possible, but that had become my baseline state these days. My eyes, my body, my magic. None of it conformed to the descendants' neat little rules. All I knew was that it was my best hope of getting out alive. The king also asked, why are you wielding my flame?
hmm
Oh, this is mine. Okay, so also chapter 20. right after that, she's
Same
looking
chapter.
at Tyvold the Gryvern, and quote, something stirred in my chest, a forgotten intuition, a memory you know exists, but can't quite recall. In the depths of the creature's dark golden eyes, there was dot, 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 not a message exactly, almost an emotion, as if what?
This book has been the absolute worst with the open-ended statements. It's driving
Yes.
me
And he's like, I
insane.
remember this, but I don't actually remember this.
It's
It's
driving me
pissing
nuts.
me
I
off.
don't think I have ever read a book that is this bad about
Okay.
that.
And like, okay, so I totally forgot to put notes on this later. But remember how the queen is later saying about how I think this is when they're like getting snappy over the dinner table or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And she's saying, like, remember that memories that have been wiped
Oh, yes.
can't be remade or whatever like that. Even
Mm-hmm.
Umbrios himself can't do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. I think we all know that that was a straight message saying, "Hey girl, your memories have been
Yeah,
wiped and we can't
it's a
remake
straight
them."
message for sure. I'm
Uh-huh.
not sure exactly what I can't decide if it's
Obviously, we
because
don't
of
know exactly what it
her
is, but
or if somebody else or if it's going to happen and she's warning her, but that was a very clear message.
well, this is like, I don't know, the second or third time that she has a memory that she can't quite
It's true.
remember.
That is very true.
So,
Yep. All right. More about the Gryvern. Chapter 21 now. Diem says that the king, so she's injured. Luther's holding her. The king is looking down at her. Well, actually, the king is looking at Luther. She says, his Gryvern, however, was watching me, still staring in that penetrating way, its reptilian eyes still pulsing with some profound feeling I couldn't yet place. There was so much anger trapped within the beast. A vast, lava-filled cavern of rage bubbled under its ancient skin like a volcano churning against a ceiling of rock. As the Igneos guard's shrieks fell silent, I wondered with a tremble what might happen if the Igneos. I'm having issues with my words now.
it's
If
okay.
the Igneos Gryvern ever unleashed.
Mhm.
So, and this little convo here was not all done with words. Some was like in her head, kind of the way she speaks with Sarai.
Yeah.
So she says she knows somehow he understands her. And I've been saying this for a while. She is going to be able to talk with all the Gryverns and she's going to free them one day. That is
Yes.
my thoughts on that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Let's see, chapter 22. This is just a quick little thing. So Luther's talking to, oh, they've just gotten to Umbrios. They're splitting up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Luther tells Taryn and Alex to remember the royal oath or whatever. And then DM asks what the royal guard oath is or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
it's to protect the crown at all costs.
Yes.
And then chapter 22, she reads Luther's thoughts for the first time. And then so he's thinking, it doesn't say this is what he's thinking, but this is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
He's thinking, need to get out of this market. Too many people here need saving, and her heart's too big to leave any of them behind.
I love that.
I did
I
too.
had the same note.
The way he's just like, damn it, girl, let's go.
Yep. He's like, I
Yep.
love this about you, but it's also irritating me.
It's also not gonna work right now. So let's move it.
Yeah. And then in chapter 22, again, there's gonna be a lot of this coming
Yeah.
up here. But it kind of seems like Luther is maybe talking to himself and talking about D in the third person, which was kind of funny. And then you realize what's going on. She keeps thinking that he's talking to her.
Yeah, saying
And
it out
then
loud or something. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And then so quote from Luther, he says, "Does she really not see it?" Talking about like her magic and how
Mhm.
special it is. And then DM says, "I glanced back up," and she says, "See what?" And Luther says, his brow jumped, and he goes, "Did you just?" And then it
dot dot
like
dot.
like she read his thought there. He didn't
Oh,
actually audibly
100%.
say, does she really not see it? He didn't audibly say that. That was in his mind. She thought that he audibly said it. And then
And
he's
so
like, hold
now
on a
he's
second.
right. He's
Did
just
you just
talking
read
about
my mind?
how powerful her magic is. And then he's
Yeah.
like, damn it, did we just add another one to the tally?
Yeah.
Oh, this part was so funny.
Okay, and then more for chapter 22. They're at the place where the jaguar is supposed to be. Um, so it's the inn. It's right when they first get there. And so a slender but large, beautiful man with blue eyes comes out. Diem can feel his power, and she notes that it's close to Luther's. And Luther's one of the most powerful
Yeah.
in Lumnos. The man claims that there's no jaguar here, and then Diem thinks in her mind. She thinks liar, and she says that in her head, and then both the men like snap, like their heads snap to her. They both
Yeah.
look at her immediately, like they heard her thought, or like she put it in their heads on accident.
Yep.
And this man is Zhao.
Is
We
Zhao.
know we
Yeah.
know now, yeah, like this is Zhao, who is a jaguar.
Yep.
All right, and then chapter 23, they are checking into the inn, and two little kids make glow flowers for them. And Luther keeps one and gives the other to the kids and tells them to come back to Lumnos and show the queen and that she will accept them.
Uh-huh.
And at least one of these kids, the girl, there's a girl and a boy, she has a very strong aura. Like her
Yeah.
magic is super strong. And Luther tells her how rare and beautiful her craftsmanship on the flowers is, and she informs him that they use their power in tandem because he only has light magic, but she has light and shadow magic. And they use their power together to create these flowers, which apparently is a very rare thing to be able to do.
Uh-huh.
I think the little girl's coming back later.
I
And
think so too. Or this
yeah,
is like a, hey, we can use our magic
or that
together.
too. I had
Yeah.
that thought too. Yep. And then chapter 24, she is draining the magic of the shield. And then later, Zal talks about how it feels like she was like taking his magic at that moment.
Yeah. Chapter 26. She tells the gang, which I'm calling them now.
The gang, the
I love
cadre,
it.
whatever it
Yep,
is.
the cadre. I like calling them the gang. I like it
Yeah,
better.
the gang
What's up,
works.
gang? Okay. She's telling them everything, right? And she's like, it is time for brutal honesty with everybody. And then she's explaining the prophecy and what Ulther says to her. Luther knows the ancient female voice was Lumnos, right? So give him
Mm-hmm.
our gift, daughter of the forgotten. When the end has come and the blood has spilled, give our gift to my faithful heir and tell him this is my command.
Mm-hmm.
Then asking if she has been, I think this is like Taryn asking if she has been given anything, or maybe it's Luther, but
I think
Taryn
it's Luther
suggests,
asks that.
yeah. And then
Mm-hmm.
Taryn suggests, is it the crown as the gift? And Dee says, more like a curse. And if
Mm-hmm.
she wants me to give it away, I apparently have to die first. Whoever her faithful heir is, he can wait his turn. I didn't survive the challenging just to give my life up for some prophecy. And then like Luther kind of like huffrumps, sure.
Frumps or whatever that word is.
He's like, huff, huff.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so, uh-huh. Curious. And I have thoughts on that, but I think we all know
Okay.
that I have thoughts on everything at
There's
this
a
point.
lot of thoughts from Leslie tonight.
A lot of thoughts on that.
Okay. So then another little foreshadowing of her being able to read minds and speak into minds. In chapter 25, Diem says about Luther, as the carousel of emotion spun across his face and I waited to see where it would stop for a moment, his mind appeared to me like a cloud of smoke, as if the simplest wave of my hand might lay open his soul. The urge to do it was thrilling, to finally know all his secrets and unearth the truth of why he'd been pulling away. It would be treachery of the darkest kind, a violation for which I might never atone, but it was just the tiniest glimpse. A shudder passed over me. What in the flames was I thinking? Even if I were willing to betray Luther in such a horrific way, I couldn't read minds. Like, she's still doubting herself
Mm-hmm.
that she can do this. She has not figured it out yet at this point. And then, chapter 26, Alix and Taryn are in the room now at the inn. They came back. And they share that their magic is returning despite not having paid the tax to be able to use it in Umbros. And they say that they also overheard talk in the market that it's not just them who were having this realization. Others are also able to use theirs now too, outside of their realm borders and without permission from the queen.
Yeah, like I think one example was like somebody in Maros.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
And then chapter 27, Diem is speaking into Luther's mind and says, compromise for compromise. And he looks at her and ends up repeating it. Then with Alix, we find out that she wants to talk to someone in the weapons market or something like that, um, because she's working on some sort of project that we later find out has to do with a tool that she's making for the upcoming war. So
Yeah.
then, chapter 29, Diem is hearing the thoughts of everyone around her in the market. She keeps blowing it off as it's like it's just a noisy place or whatever. And again, she does not realize that she's hearing their thoughts. It takes her a
Mhm.
really long time to put this together. Drove me
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
Yeah. I
So
think
many
it was
clues.
like down when they're getting ready to get on the boat when she finally figures it
I
out.
think so. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is also in chapter 29. Diem is shopping and looks at all the dragon fire in the jars, right? And there is a lavender one that is from Montios. That is the seller's last one. So this is the last dragon fire of Montios, supposedly. And he has all but the Fortos Gryverns Dragonfire. He
Mm-hmm.
sold that at some point. So he doesn't have that one anymore, but he has the rest of them. Which is really interesting that she wasn't like, where's Soray's fire? But
Oh, I didn't even
I
think about that.
yeah, but
But
I think it
yeah.
it was because she felt like a calling to this lavender one that she keeps talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So she hears her godhood speak again and again, and it's something unlike she's ever heard before. Quote, rise, the voice inside me hissed. Rise. I echoed without thinking. The flame fluttered. Sorry, that's also hard. The flame fluttered, then sparked as if lit anew. It flourished to twice its size, then doubled again, then once more, leaving the jar blazing with a blinding violet light.
Mm-hmm.
So she buys the Montios one. But when the seller puts his hand on her for some reason, all the dragon fire perks up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then she tells them all that she is okay. And then they all calm down. So all the
Yeah.
dragon fire is also listening to her.
And she says that when he puts his hand, like whenever she feels like slightly threatened, that's when all the dragonfire like freaks out. And then
Uh-huh.
she feels her godhood calling to her. And then she just talks to them like she talks to Sarai and says, it's okay, calm down. Basically, that's not what she said,
Uh-huh.
but, and they do.
Mm-hmm.
She can talk to them, all of
Uh-huh.
them. It's, she can.
Why would
I've
she
been
be
saying
able
that.
to speak to this dragon fire?
All right, chapter 29. Luther is asking Diem what realm she's been to, and she says that the
Mm-hmm.
only one she's actually never been to, now at this point, is Sophos. And he tells her that she should visit it sometime. And Diem says to Luther, she goes, I frown down at him and says, what good would that do? And Luther says to Diem, call it a hunch. I just thought that needed to be thrown in here. Why does Luther want her to go to Sophos?
I don't
I
know.
don't know, but he's like, yeah, just go try it. There's something there for you. I don't know. I don't know why, but
I
that
must have
kind of stood
missed
out to
that
me.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. I missed that part. I was probably so on something else I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting.
So then another big thing here in chapter 29, she's back from her little sightseeing with Zal, and she's sitting there with Luther. He's looking at a newspaper, and he got this newspaper in Umbros, and there's lots of stories and pictures and all kinds of crazy stuff in this newspaper. First thing that she sees is a story about the rebel attacks in the Northern Realms, and apparently the Amerian army had deployed a battalion of descended soldiers to Montios, and every last one had disappeared without a trace. And these were descended soldiers, and they were all
Mm-hmm.
gone. And then Diem says, like, I didn't realize the Guardians were so strong. And Luther says, they're not, but someone is helping them. And then he flips the page. And on the next page, it contains a picture of a man. Quote, staring back was a face I'd never forget. Striking features, colorless and pale, silvery glittering skin, a brilliant glow radiating around him, illuminating a horde of armed mortals at his back. They both realize that this is the man from their vision that they've been having. The one who called her daughter of the forgotten. And she notes how it felt that he was like looking back at her through the picture, like watching her somehow and like seeing her from a continent away.
Mm-hmm.
I have thoughts on this guy.
I just want to know right now. Like
I think it's her dad.
I think it is too.
Okay.
Do you
Okay.
want to know? I'll tell you kind of what else I'm thinking
Okay. Yeah,
later.
tell me.
But I'm pretty sure this is the youngest kindred, and he
Oh,
is
interesting. Okay.
forgotten.
Oh, oh.
So I have like two different theories. I have two different theories going here. Okay,
Okay.
but one theory that I haven't fully formed yet is that he is the forgotten one, and there used to be 10 realms
Wow.
because there were 10 kindred.
I did not even think about that. Yep,
We
that's
should move
cool.
on.
Okay, we'll move on so we can get to more of that.
Okay. Chapter 30.
Okay, here we go. Chapter 30. Zal is leading them to his contact to get them out of Umbros. And Diem's godhood tells her to, quote, look, which is another command that she has never heard before. So she does. Briefly, she looks at Zal's mind. She can feel it like the shadowy edges of his mind, and she does actually just look for a second. And then they share like this knowing look. And we know now, we don't learn this in chapter 30, but we know now that it was his betrayal of them that she had seen in his mind.
Yeah.
But again, like this is, I think, the first time that she realizes that she can actually do that on
Yeah, that this is
purpose.
what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
She's doing
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So, chapter 32, the queen rides in on her Gryvern and makes everyone kneel. She addresses Diem in front of all these people as daughter of the forgotten,
Mm-hmm.
not Queen of Lumnos, not Diem. She addresses her as daughter of the forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, like the rest of the gang didn't know about this until 2 or 3 chapters ago or an hour ago or whatever it was, right?
It was right before they left the inn, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
So then slightly later, she's looking at this wine glass she's holding, and it has a dragon up the stem of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then she asks if it is the sigil of Umbros, and that she sees them all over the palace, right? Because there
Mm-hmm.
it's everywhere in the palace. All the dragons are everywhere. So first off, thank you for asking the questions. I want answers to, DM. I appreciate that. But Umbros replies, very perspective. Did you know dragons feel every piece of their gold in their hoard? Even a single one, if even a single one is taken, they know, and they take their repayment in blood. But listen to what DM says back to her, okay? They are
Mm-hmm.
fearsome creatures, though I confess I don't understand them. With as much power as they wield, what use does any dragon have for gold? ... Or any crown for that matter.
I blew over that too, but now that you're saying it, I'm like, dang, there is so much there. Um, there's a lot in that.
There's
I
so
blew
much in that.
completely over that.
There's so much in everything the Queen of
Do you
Umbra
have
says.
more on that later? Should we just leave that be for now?
We can just leave it be, but I don't have much more on that later. But I mean, I do and I don't. So we can just come back to it.
You know, I thought I took really good notes this time, but I
I
don't think I did.
I like a lot of this like had already come to mind, and then yeah, now I'm just getting a lot of
Well, you did
solidification on
text
things.
me. You texted me before you even started reading this chapter chunk. Like, I figured everything out.
Uh-huh. And I wrote some of it down
And that was
in my
before you
thoughts
ever
and theories
read
and
any of
before I
this.
even started the
So,
section. So
yeah.
yeah. So maybe we'll just keep going. So
Okay.
okay, so chapter 32. and this one's just really short, but so Arlie can't be executed without a vote of 6 between the crowns. Um, Montios and Arbros have not voted yet, and without Diem, Remus won't vote.
Mm-hmm. And I think I have another quote in here later about
About
that
that. Okay,
too. Mm-hmm.
cool.
Okay, and then chapter 33, they tell her they think the Queen of Umbros is scared of her. And she's like, "No, why would she be scared of me? She's super powerful." And then they, as in like Alex, Alix and Taryn and Luther, give her examples. And so Alix tells her, quote, "You shattered the arena barrier," Alix said. "That's forging magic. It's supposed to be unbreakable even by the crowns." And then Zal tells her, quote, "Normally, if someone's magic is strong enough to sense, I can feel them when they enter the room. I could feel your magic when you entered the city."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I
And then
gotta get
like
a drink.
on that, I know Taryn said something about you held the entire challenging arena hostage or something like that. And then he
That's
says
right.
something, yeah, he says something about how you turned the day to night.
You turned the day to night. You held them all at your will while breaking the arena barrier
Yeah,
all
yeah,
at the same time.
yeah. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, girl, you got the
And
power.
this is like, I think, the point in time where she kind of starts to realize, she goes, "Oh, like as a mortal, I was always hiding like my eye color, my hair color, just always giving excuses and making myself small in a way and blowing off anything that seems special about me." And so she's not used to truly looking at herself and being like, "Okay, I might actually be kind of special."
Yeah,
And this is the point where I think she starts to finally realize she's very powerful.
yeah.
Okay, and then chapter 34 from Ursula, Queen of Umbros, on, so this is the part I was saying, so on the whole vote of 6 thing, she says, so Ursula sneered, "I never approved of this vote of 6 rubbish. That's a new creation, you know, put into place years after the war over my protest. There's a reason it takes all 9 crowns to renew the forging magic. We act as one. That's what the kindred intended. Even a single descent should stay our hands. These fools and their egos thought they knew better than the kindred, and look where it got us. Look what's happened. Look how much we'll have to sacrifice now that dot dot dot."
Mm-hmm.
And then she says, "Well, we've lost sight of many things the kindred intended, haven't we?"
Mm.
Yep. And then she also says, Ursula says, talking about Father Umbros, she says, quote, "Lumnos is not the only one who speaks to her disciples, you know. Blessed Father Lumnos, or not Lumnos, Umbros, has much to say about you." Talking about Diem.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what he's told her, but I don't know if we're going to get to find out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so chapter 35. She finds this diary. It's like a lavender color diary with no dates in it or any like titles or anything like that. But the earliest entry reads, quote, "The locals too are at war. The hate reminds us of home and all that we have lost. It grieves me. I do not wish these people to know the despair that we have seen. We try to help them with our gifts. We end their diseases and feed their hungry. They call us their saviors and bow to us as gods. My siblings welcome it. I do not. They even gave us names in their language. They call me Montios for my love of their beautiful mountains." And then, so that's the first quote
That's
from
when
the
she figures
diary.
out that she's reading a kindred's diary,
Yeah,
basically.
Montio's
Yeah.
diary. Yep. So then another entry from the diary says, "When Lumnos fell, it was expected. Her heart is a soft place where love thrives. Nor were Maros or Umbros any surprise. They are drawn to pleasure, and we have all been lonely for so long. My siblings and I warned them against their unions. Then our eldest fell, Sophos, our guiding light. I could not believe it. Though it may have been I who sealed our fate, I have always preferred solitude over the company of others. Once I found my love, that changed. When he and I steal away on Ramari to the mountains, I feel peace I have always longed for. Every day our beloved's age, the thought haunts us all. Sophos believes there may be a way to bind their short lives to ours. Whatever the cost is, I will pay it. An eternity with him is worth the highest price. And then there's one, is there one more quote? Yes.
Yes.
And then there's one more quote from the diary. So she notes that the last pages of the diary have actually been torn out. So she goes to the ones right before it was torn out, and this is what it says. It says, quote, "The locals are grateful. Though some resent our presence, they fear Lumnos's unborn child, as well as the life growing in Fortos's mate. What role will our descendants play in this new world? There is a plan, but our youngest will not agree. Our lives are shorter now. We must persuade him before our time expires. I confess, some days I fear him. What happened in our homeland did not scare him as it should have. Instead, he speaks of it with reverence, even our..." And then there's an M-O, Mo, and then that's it.
And then it cuts off.
Because she's interrupted by the Queen of Umbros. Or no, not the Queen of Umbros. She's interrupted by Simon.
Yeah, but it was torn out.
And it was torn out. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we find out Sophos is the oldest. And then we have Lumnos, Meros, Umbrios, and Fortos all married. And Montio, or not married, but mated, sorry. And Montios is the one writing this, who also mated. And who is the youngest that didn't want to bind themselves to a mortal? Okay, this is what we're talking about, right? So this could leave Phanos, Igneos, and Arboros. And obviously something weird is going on with the Queen of Arboros, okay? But what if there was another one? A 10th one.
Yeah.
A forgotten one.
And they say it's a him. She does say him. They
that
fear
is
him.
Taking out descended in the north right now.
Yes. Oh, okay.
There are 10 dragons. There are 10 arches in
the throne room.
The throne room. The Umbros, the Queen of Umbros talks to Umbros or whatever, and knows so much. You can't see me, but I'm bouncing up and down in my chair.
I did not pick up on this. I thought the him she was talking about was just naturally going to be one of the other realms that she, or the other kindred that hadn't been mentioned. It could be. It could be. Umbros also was not mentioned.
But we know Phanos and Arboros, she met them at her whatever, right?
Coronation. Yeah, but we don't know if the original kindred were male or female of that realm.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah, that's true. Okay.
It could be Umbros too, because that's also Umbros is not mentioned, and that Umbros is a male.
Umbros is mentioned.
And Umbros found father Umbros.
Nope, it said Lumnos, Meros, Umbros, and Fortos all mated, and then Montios was one of the last ones to mate.
Okay. No, I'm with you on this. I am with you on this. I think you are onto something big here.
I think I am too.
Yeah.
Yes. But I still do want to put out there that the Queen of Arboros in the beginning of this book is acting weird. And then supposedly there's 2 fake queens. Who knows what that could be? But
true.
All right, moving on.
All right, chapter 37.
Nope, 36.
Oh, 36. Sorry. Go ahead. You're good.
Okay, so they're playing this mirror game, which sounds incredibly stupid, but whatever. And the queen is being very cryptic. Like I think this was where some of this came up. I think with like the wiping of memories type thing.
Yes.
But this isn't about that. So basically, she's telling Diem that the last blood war was about descended blood. This war will be about her blood. And also finishing out this conversation, basically Umbros will fight in this upcoming war.
Yeah.
But yeah, this war will be about her blood.
Well, and we already know there is something seriously special about her blood.
Interesting with her blood. Yes.
Okay, chapter 37. The Queen of Umbros tells Diem that a crown can always sense their successor, but only towards the end of their life. She says she knows who will take her place, which also infers, logically, that she means that she's nearing the end of her life. Um,
Mm-hmm.
she also says that whomever this person will be is going to be a great trouble to Diem. Her greatest adversary, is what she says.
Yeah.
Someone who will try to undo and combat everything that Diem is working towards, and who may even put Diem in an early grave.
Mhm.
So they have this little conversation. Diem says, "For a bunch of dead people, the kindred love meddling in our affairs." The Queen of Umbros says, "The kindred are not dead, child." Diem,
Uh-huh.
"I thought they died with their mortal lovers." Queen of Umbros says, "They bound their physical bodies so they could age and pass from this world together, but they did not die as you and I understand it. The afterlife is only for those with mortal blood in their veins, the mortals, the half-mortals, the descended. The kindred have no mortal blood. Their bodies perish, but they endure." Diem says, "So they can't ever die, they just endure forever?" Queen of Umbros says, "Oh, their kind can die." Diem says, "Then how?" And the Queen of Umbros says, "Shockingly, the blessed father kept that detail all to himself. But it is an interesting question, isn't it?" It's a
Mm-hmm.
very interesting question. And
So
I'm guessing we're
they're
going to
not
find some
dead.
answers. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Oh, I think I have the answers, but
Okay, I have some theories on that too, but I have a feeling you may have already gotten there. So,
oh, okay, let's just go ahead and go for it. What are you thinking?
okay, I think that this man, this gold or not golden, gray man that they
Yep.
see in their visions and everything is her father. He is kindred. He is the 10th one, which I didn't have that theory until you threw that out there. So that's
Okay.
on you. Um, but that he is this forgotten one and that she's going to end up figuring out something with her blood or something that somehow she can actually kill him, that he's going to be the big bad and she can actually kill him. That's my thoughts. What's yours?
Hmm. Okay, so you know how they say about how like their like names have been forgotten of the old gods and stuff like that,
Hmm.
and there's stuff with the Gryvern fire or the dragon fire. That's the Gryverns, right?
Hmm.
And the 10 and whatnot. And they can be killed, but they have been around for forever. What has been around for
Hmm.
forever? The Gryverns.
Hmm.
So kind of my thought was like the kindred soul or whatever is now in the Gryverns
Oh.
because like Montios says something about how they call me Montios. They don't know my name. They call me Montios. So what if
Hmm.
Saray is Lumnos's real name?
And
And
Romari
that's
is the Montios Gryvern, and that was female. Romari
and
was
they
female, and Montios was female.
and what if see, I mean, I think they said it was a female that was the Gryvern for Umbros, but so this is kind of where it falls apart,
Hmm.
but it's a thought, but they can be killed.
Hmm.
What can kill Gryverns? Not much other than like Godstone, bolt to the
To
heart.
the heart. Hmm.
Um, and like
Or the soil of Kindred
yep, the
Island.
soil of the Kindred Island. Why the soil of the Kindred Island? I don't know, but that's and then like why do all these Gryverns look at her and like have some weird mental connection with her?
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, so let's just kind of keep moving here. Now we have honorable mentions. Jess, why don't you start?
Okay, so chapter 20, just a quick little thing. All the way back when they're in Igneos and the king of Igneos is there trying to fight them. Luther says to the king, he says, quote, "You cannot defeat her. Your magic is a glimmer, hers is the sun."
Yes, I had that too. That was
Yeah.
so cute.
Okay, and then I had to throw this in there because again, Luther is just got away with words. And
Yeah.
he says to Diem, "It's not just my body that craves you, Diem, it's my heart." He clutched at his chest. "My scarred, ruined scrap of a soul. Your smiles, your affection, the way you look at me, the way you see me, that is my lifeblood. I would sooner wither without food or water, sink into the sea until my lungs burst, abandon my magic and let my godhood burn me alive from within, than endure one more day of life without you in it.
This is chapter 26, and this is like after that, and now she's pissed
Mm-hmm.
because they won't get to the main event, let's just call it.
Yeah.
And it's very obvious. And so Taryn and Alex are out there, and Taryn says, Mom and Dad are fighting. And I literally laughed out loud. I thought this was
Yeah.
the funniest freaking thing on the planet.
Mm-hmm. It was funny.
It was so funny because it is. That's the dynamic of their little gang here. And I love it.
It
Mom
is
and
the
Dad are fighting.
dynamic. Um, okay, so then again in chapter 26, and they're all out there talking after this happens between her and Luther. So tension is a little high, and in this moment she also makes Alix her High General.
Yes.
So basically strips Luther of his title and gives
Uh-huh.
it to Alix. Because so the High General actually has, we learn that they have the authority to overrule the crown in moments where it's necessary to preserve their safety. So
Yep.
they can say, whatever to your order that you just said to leave me to die, and they can say, nope, I'm not going to do that.
Yep.
And so, because of this, she says that she cannot trust Luther to be her High General. She trusts him with her life, but not with her orders.
So chapter 27, I'm sorry. And Diem and Taryn are talking about how Taryn wants to find his mate or whatever. And then
Mm-hmm.
Zal walks in. This could obviously be foreshadowing too, but they're
Mm-hmm.
obviously having a minimally clothed sleepover after the little, I'm going to call it an adult party.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um and that was later obviously that happened, but
Mm-hmm.
that it's just really funny that he was talking about he wants to find his mate someday or something like that, and then Zal just walks in.
Uh-huh.
And I love like all these little funny things that keep happening like that. So
And Taryn's a little romantic. He's like obsessed with the whole mating thing. Even
I
all the way in the beginning of
know.
book two, when they were at the funeral, he was talking about the mating thing. And
he's
yeah, it's
he's a
cute.
little kitty petite, and he's like the one that was asking about how he wanted to see the meeting. I want to keep calling it a tattoo, and that's not right, but
Mark or
mating
whatever.
mark or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I want to see it. It never gets old, even though they all look the same. They're all neat or something like that. I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah, that was
you're
cute.
such a cutie.
Yeah. Okay, then chapter 28, they're on their little sightseeing tour of Umbro City, and Diem says they almost had to physically restrain her to keep her from buying every book on mortal history. And I just have
Mm-hmm.
to say, so this is something that my mom and I talk about a lot because my mom also reads all of these books with me. And we've noticed that in every romantasy series that we've read so far together, all of the FMCs love to read and they have a book obsession. And that just speaks to the heart of those who read these books. I think it's cool.
And okay, so I have a little something in this that's kind of like just coming to me, but like how we were talking about how she's um finding all the mortal books and stuff like that,
Hmm.
and about how she wants all these mortal books that are there because they weren't
Hmm.
able to have them, right?
Hmm.
But she said, like in book one, about how her mom had all these mortal books that she wouldn't let her read.
Yeah, she kept her away from all of it locked up.
Yeah, interesting. Your thoughts really cute, and I love it. But that's what sparked my head on that, and so I apologize that I interrupted. But
No, you're good. You're good. I think they go together.
uh-huh.
She because she obviously loves books because when the Queen of Umbros brought her into the library, she was like, I could live here and stay here
Mm-hmm.
forever.
I
It's
think I
just
could too,
books and
but
books and books. Yeah. So, chapter 31, the Cardinal, and I cannot remember what her actual name is, but
I
we
wrote
maybe
it
should have put her in
down
characters
somewhere.
because
But
I think she's
yeah,
gonna come back.
I think so too.
Um, Anyways, so the Cardinal, who is this contact that Zal has that's gonna get them out of the city when they get caught by Simon and his gang and whatnot. They use their mind magic, and Luther, Terran, Alix, and the Cardinal and Zal all have their own blades turned on themselves because of the mind magic that's being used against them. And the cardinal ends up slitting her own throat. And Diem is able to heal her with her light magic. And I've been thinking as I'm reading this, I'm like, this is going to come back into play at some point. They wouldn't have made a big deal about it in book one when she healed Lily, because she healed Lily through this light magic or whatever that came through her hands, if it wasn't going to come back. And so I was like, this is going to come back. And then all of a sudden we get to this scene and Diem does heal the cardinal with her healing light magic. And I was like, I knew it. I knew that was going to
Uh-huh.
come back.
I've got a lot here. So I think all of these are in chapter 34.
Yeah.
So she's alone with Simon in this, let's call it the closet. And she asks if he knows why Ambrose thinks she's valuable. And he says, quote, whatever that riddle she told you means, she spends a great deal of time thinking on it. Her Majesty has been queen for many years. She survived the Blood War. I don't think she desires to see Amarian have a second one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm calling her Yourself, the Queen of Umbrios, and DM are talking at lunch. This is before the library. And she wants the same thing that Dee and Luther want, which is a new Amarian. And quote, how much of your soul are you willing to set ablaze?
Mm-hmm.
The Queen also makes so many other flame references while speaking with DM.
Yeah.
And then at their lunch or breakfast or whatever this is, the Queen is telling DM about the forging magic, which, like I said last time, and I will speak on here a little bit more, is what I think is the second magic or the original elemental magic.
Mm-hmm.
So, quote, when you released my representatives at your ball, that magic runs through everything in the realm, every plant, every creature, even the stone. When you've been queen as long as I have, you learn how to use it to your advantage.
Mm-hmm. I had that one too.
Mm-hmm. And then 34. So this is when she's like leaving her out or leaving her. She's just given her the key to the library. And then she goes, well, why are you letting me in here? Why do you let me have access to it or whatever? And she says, because an education is the most powerful weapon of them all.
Yeah. Okay, so then one last little thing about chapter 34. The queen is kind of talking about the whole vote of six thing. And Diem asks why she didn't vote to have her mother executed. And she says, the queen says, no, your mother has a role to play in what's to come. And Diem says, what's to come? And then the queen doesn't answer and they move on to having tea.
One more thing to add to honorable mentions. This is also still in chapter 34. So this is when she walks up to the library doors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it says, quote, a few moments later, she stopped in front of a stained glass door depicting what looked like to be a history of Amarian. On one panel, bloody bodies were scattered over a red-drenched battlefield. On another, 9 crown-wearing figures stood in a circular black platform. But what rendered me speechless was the panel on top. A tree, its branches engulfed in flames, a red-haired man leaning against its base, the Everflame.
Mm-hmm.
So my thought was, if that's the one that's on top, this is like a story of the history.
Yeah.
You have the history of the Everflame, and then you have the history of the Kindred coming, and then you have the history of the Blood War.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Okay, how about I'll go first because I know you've got some massive thoughts and theories.
I do.
And to be clear to anyone like listening, I have not heard her full thoughts and theories yet. So I'm going to be
Yes.
hearing this for the first time with everyone else. Okay, my thoughts and theories. Honestly, I didn't have that many this time. So, first of all, I have a theory that it seems like the halvesies are the most powerful. Everybody that we've learned of so far that has super powerful auras is Zal, who's a halvesy, Luther, who's a halvesy, Diem, and then the girl in the inn. They're all half mortal. And
Yep.
the mortal blood cannot outdo the kindred blood. So, not sure exactly where I'm going with that, but they all seem to be more powerful than the full-blooded descended. There's also something different about her crown. They note that. We didn't talk about it, but there is something different about her
Yeah.
crown. And she thinks maybe it's just because I'm a different queen. And Alix and Taryn are like, no, we've seen the historical pictures going back of all the crowns
Yeah.
for all the years before, and the crown is the same every time, but not yours.
Yeah.
And then we did talk about this, but I think the descended man, or the man in the newspaper, is her father.
Mhm.
And I also kind of was wondering, remember in Arboros, how the guards are talking about how there's just like this descended man that comes up to them and says he hates his kind as well and wants to help, and they're like, "Oh yeah, sure, you can help,"
Mhm.
and they don't want to work with him. I don't know if
Mhm.
it's the same person or not, but I was like, maybe wonder if it's the same person.
I
And he was
think it
like
is.
trying to get close to DM at that time, and then she gets away. And there's something special about Montios. There's something about Montios. It was noted far too many times in this chapter chunk to not be paid attention to.
Mhm.
And then my final thought, like I said, I don't have a lot of thoughts and theories here. But I think she's one of two things are going to happen to Luther. Either they are going to find out that her blood can heal him, finally, like realize that
Finally.
that's what happened to Taryn and why he healed.
Right.
And it's going to be some massive dramatic accident. Like he's probably going to be basically dead and then she accidentally bleeds on him or something. I don't know. But it's going to be something like that. Or my other thought is she mentions how the Godstone kills its victims when it reaches the heart. But Luther has like his scar goes down around his heart, but the scar splits and there's a perfectly unmarred patch of skin right around his heart.
Mhm.
So maybe it's not going to be able to actually reach his heart and kill him. I It could be one of those two things. But that's all I've got. So let's hear yours.
Okay, so we'll go off of that part real quick because that
Okay.
is in my thoughts and theories. So that little patch over his heart or whatever, right? That's where he puts his hand or whatever,
Hmm.
and where DM puts her hand. So let's go back to our little friend, our pregnant friend, Drusilla,
Hmm.
right? Um, and Tyrion's our softie, and so he's asking about her mating mark or whatever. And then she's saying about how she can feel her mate when he touches his or what his mating mark or whatever.
Hmm.
So I'm pretty sure that's DM and Luther's like mating marks or whatever. Because mind you, she got stabbed in the chest just above her heart in Igneos,
Oh
and
yeah.
Luther saved her.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
Mm. Hmm.
And so anyway, I think that's their mating mark or whatever. So that's kind of a thought there.
Okay, I like that thought.
Yep. And then we kind of just talked about the library doors, what I think that is, but also the red-haired man under the Everflame tree.
Yeah, who is that?
I'm not sure yet, but so I'm not exactly sure. I haven't had enough time to really break that down, but I do. I think it's more of a story of what is in that library, right? So you have the Everflame tree and the mortals before the kindred got there, and then the kindred got there, and that's got to be in the middle, right? And it
Hmm.
shows them standing around the temple or whatever on a circular black platform.
Hmm.
But which one? And then and
Hmm.
then you have, I'm assuming, either the blood war or is it the coming war? So I'm gonna start really quickly so that I can finish off of thoughts and theories that came off of last week's episode, actually.
Uh-huh.
Just so we're clear, like I said before, I wrote this all down before I continued reading this week's section. And so at the end, Jess had mentioned about um something about the two types of magic. We were talking about that. And I went
Hmm.
back and I found it. So it's just this one little paragraph in chapter 45 of Glow, which is book 2. Um, the kindred's elemental magic is blood magic, Anyone who shares their blood inherits those abilities. But there's also a second kind of magic of life and death that flows through everything: the earth, the air, every plant and creature. The Heartstone acts as a conduit between those two forces. It allowed the kindred to weave their magic into this world and control how it can be used. But also, I just wanted to throw in there, because I wrote this, like I said, before I started reading this. That's exactly what the Umbros Queen was talking about with the
Forging magic.
magic. Okay.
And she
So,
says that DM like already messed that up because she cracked the Heartstone.
so Jess, you were talking about how the magic was coming in and out for the gang, and you said it was maybe because the Heartstone was cracked.
Oh yeah, and it
Um,
was like creating little like openings in the barriers or whatever.
yeah, but I don't think
Uh-huh.
so. So I
Okay.
think it's the other magic is now free-ish, let's say, and it has more or less been siphoned by the Heartstone into the Descended and
Hmm.
away from, let's say, this elemental magic. Um, so it cracking is making it able to move both ways again, but not fully one way or the other. And
Okay.
destroying the Heartstone completely means the Descended would lose their power, but that's got to be because they wouldn't be able to siphon the elemental magic into them anymore.
Uh-huh.
So, big picture, the kindred came to this world. The power and magic source is the Everflame tree. They cut down the tree, but the tree still has roots, and there is still that elemental magic flowing into the world. And then they make the Heartstone to siphon the elemental power, and they shed their blood on it once a year to ensure that the power is siphoned into their bloodline.
Oh.
But kind of big picture thoughts and theories, like I said. So I'm wondering if there's 10 original kindred.
I
The one
really
that is
like that thought.
forgotten is
Mm-hmm.
the one that is for the one that's forgotten is the quote unquote descended man, which she recognizes from her vision or whatever, that calls her daughter of the forgotten, and he wants her to come to him and basically destroy all of the descended.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, I hate the descended as much as you are. Is it because maybe he didn't have as much power as the rest of them, or he didn't want to combine his powers with mortals or whatever? I think he just wants to be the one main ruler, and he is now going to do that. But why does he need Diem? Well, let's go back to the part where it said a woman would go to the island, she'd brave the seas while labor started because a baby
Yeah.
born um, under the Everflame tree, or wherever the Everflame tree is, would possibly receive all its powers or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think somehow that happened with her. I'm still not 100% convinced that Orly is actually her mom. I still think that she could have taken her and thought she was just a descended halvesies, since that's like what she was in the market for. That
Sure.
sounded wrong, but you know what I'm trying to say. She
Yeah,
was trying to
gotcha.
help those guys.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, somebody just abandoned their freaking baby here like an asshole, but it's a half and half, and so I'm gonna just take it as my own baby, but I'm gonna give it flame root powder so that nobody knows that it's a halfsies.
Mm-hmm.
um but that's kind of my thought there, and I'm now still reeling with the red-haired man stuff. So
Hmm.
oh, and then the Gryverns could possibly be the spirits of the kindred.
I like that theory.
Yeah.
I'm definitely super on board with your idea that there's a 10th one, a forgotten one.
Oh,
That
there's
makes
100%
so
a 10th
much
one.
sense.
There's 100%
So
a
much
10th one.
sense.
You can't tell me there's not anymore.
No,
Like I
it
told
makes
you, like
sense. Yeah.
if if I'm wrong, I'm gonna pretty much be like, hey, so why'd you change the story after you heard why'd you write the story differently after you heard my thoughts and theories? Because I got it right. Are you mad about it?
Yeah.
But yes, the dragons thing, and man, I'm telling you. And why do they call it dragon fire, not Gryvern fire?
I was wondering that too.
I'm telling you, there's dragons, and the kindred are dragons. I've been telling you this since like, I think episode 1.
Yeah.
So
Well, they do talk about dragons like they are a normal
a
creature that they would
thing.
encounter,
Uh-huh.
but we don't actually ever encounter them. Just the
I know. We
Gryverns.
better at some point.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in Vision battle scene is gonna be her and Luther against uh that one guy that is
You
up in
think that that
Montios
one
right now.
guy
Oh
is
yeah,
going to be the
100%.
big bad?
Oh
He's
yeah,
like, maybe we're finally getting our enemy.
he's the forgotten exiled kindred. And then
And he's
so
working with the mortals. I just wonder about that, though,
yes,
too.
because he didn't want to, they said the youngest didn't want to mate. All the other ones did.
Yes.
Okay, but also the only one they mention, like obviously they all had babies or whatever, but like the
Mm-hmm.
first one mentioned is Lumnos.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What if like Diem is Lumnos's baby and she hid her under the Everflame tree down in
Oh.
that dungeon and Orly found her?
Oh, man.
I
Yeah.
don't know for sure, but like that was kind of a thought. Because I thought about that. I was like, okay, if Orly isn't her mother, then who would be her mother?
Mm-hmm.
But it was the Queen of Umbrios that just is like, your mind has been wiped and da 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 da. So we
I
don't know how
know.
old Diem could actually be.
That is so true.
So a lot of that. And then it's like, obviously, Luther knows way more about this prophecy. But okay, so if Lumnos speaks to him as well, she's
Mm-hmm.
obviously his faithful heir, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what does the daughter of the forgotten, what gift does the daughter of the forgotten
I know.
have to give to Luther?
Oh, my
That's what I
goodness.
don't know yet. I haven't figured that part out yet, but give me another day or two and I will. Hopefully. Because we only have one half of this book. So two more sections of this book.
Yep.
And then we are done with the series. And then we're sitting in the same boat as everybody else, just waiting for book 4, which is the final book.
And I have heard that this one ends on a massive cliffhanger.
Yeah. That's what your mama has said. And your mama hasn't been wrong
Yeah.
yet. So
Yeah.
we can
Oh
all just
boy.
be pissed together.
Yep.
Pretty much. All right. Well, that's where I'm at. So jot tick counter. There was 18 in the last section, 15 in this one, leaving us at 33 so far for this first half of this book.
And growling count 16 in the previous section of the book, plus 17 in this one, which gives us 28 so far.
And then we still have our cry counter for this whole series. I'm at 0.
I'm still at 1.
I mean, two halvesies, two halvesies, two halvesies make
Two
one.
halvesies.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so we promised a clue to our next series.
All right, so your first clue can be found in a reel that we posted on Facebook and Instagram about our next series.
The second clue, drumroll, of the books I own, as showed in the video, the series that we are reading next does not have sprayed edges of the books I own. There are
So you have to
no
go back
sprayed
and watch
edges.
those reels to see which ones do not have sprayed edges.
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't seen the video, go and check it out. Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. And then while you're there on YouTube, you could hit those like and follow and subscribe buttons, and that would help us out a lot.
Yes. We will be giving you the final clue next week, so make sure you are here for it.
And next week's episode, we will be reading and discussing Heat of the Everflame by Penn Cole, book 3 of our Kindred Curse series. And we're going to do chapters 40 through 59.
This will be our part 3 of 4 for this book, so make sure you read that section before coming back.
If you're enjoying reading along with us or just enjoying our conversations and theories, be sure to like this video and hit that like and subscribe on your way out.
And reading all these series with book besties is so much fun.
It is. So share with your book bestie.
And until next time, fill your drinks with ice.
And your books with spice.
Bye.
Bye.
That was good.
That was good.